The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Our Culture, Our Stories podcast are those of the individual hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of the NAACP or any affiliated organizations.
We have such a ways to go in terms of not just the work in of itself, but also being recognized for the work that we are doing, because we are out here doing great work. And I'm really proud of us for it. And I know myself and other actors like myself are pushing for it, to have the great writing, to have these great stories, to create these great characters that people can see themselves reflected in, that they can invest in. And it's like acting is supposed to be about play, and I want to play, but I also want people to feel seen.
Welcome to Our Culture, Our Stories. I'm Juliana J. Bolden here with the NAACP. I'm so happy to welcome Aja Naomi King to the podcast today. How you doing, Aja?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, it's been quite an eventful time for us coming out of Image Awards. What was going through your mind the first time you heard that the Image Awards, that you had an Image Awards nomination on deck?
Oh, I think the first time I was nominated for an Image Award, I was actually presenting the nominations with my co-star at the time, Alfred Enoch. So, and I didn't know, and I'm sure someone knew. And so that blew me away. I was just excited to get to be a part of it in some way and announce people that were going to be nominated. And then it was my own name. And that just felt so validating, so wonderful, that to get that nod, to get that acknowledgement. I'll never forget that moment. It was really special and captured on camera. So I'm able to like go back and find it and see it, which is really nice. Because I think at the time, especially, like I knew I was a part of something that was so magnificent, and I felt like I was on just this great show and getting to be in the presence of such phenomenal actors like Viola Davis all the time. And like it was one of the biggest moments of my career. I felt like it was a huge launching point for me, and getting that nomination was like, yes, you are on your path.
I wholeheartedly agree. I was actually there that day, and I think a lot of us probably screamed louder than you did. We were so overjoyed for you and excited for your big surprise. So, to while we're talking about Alfred and the whole How to Get Away with Murder experience, let's talk about some of the ways in which the roles that you've been able to portray really tell the stories of some very complex women. Your character was standing in City Hall trying to keep the 10 freeway from coming through Los Angeles. Can you talk about what that feels like embodying historical characters, or even if they're not historical characters, just characters that represent an array of experiences for women and Black people?
Yes, yes. Wow. Yeah, this is why I love doing what I get to do. Being able to dive into our stories. No matter what I do, when I'm walking into a space, when I'm walking onto a set, I am doing so as a Black woman. And there is a responsibility there. And maybe that's not fair, but I wear it as a badge of honor, because I do think it is so important the way we are portrayed. We are fighting centuries of images of us that were meant to dehumanize us. And so I feel honored that I get to counter that with humanizing us, with allowing us to be allowing us to show ourselves as the nuanced, grounded, beautiful human beings that we are in all of our glory. So getting to portray a character like Harriet Sloan on Lessons in Chemistry, that felt phenomenal because that was a story I didn't know about, and I didn't know about this community, and these things really happened. They really were fighting against the freeway, and it took years, and it demolished a thriving community, and that is devastating, and it's a part of the history of Los Angeles, and we should know that history. You know, these are the stories that are worth being told, and it's not a point to finger to shame anyone, but it is meant to be a tool for us to learn how to be better, to learn about what occurred so that we don't do the same things over and over again and create that kind of destruction and damage, and or treat people as if their lives and their communities aren't worthy. um, so I really love being able to step into Harriet Sloan. And I also really love being able to step into Michaela Pratt on How to Get Away with Murder, and seeing this ambitious young woman who's trying to make her mark, and getting to be inspired by the powerful lawyer that Viola Davis played on that show, and just having that for Michaela, she got to see a path. She was able to see, like, oh, I can be that. And I think that's so valid to be able to have an example of what we can be. And as an actor, I look to Viola in terms of, oh, I can be that in terms of career. When you look at the span of her career and all that she's been able to accomplish, and just the value and importance of being able to see it. And that's why I also love this current role on Grosse Pointe Garden Society, getting to portray a very elite and powerful Black woman in this predominantly white community who has status but is also very messy in her own life, and his and has created this image of herself where she's portraying herself as being so perfect and in control, when underneath everything is kind of unraveling. And all of that is to say is, like, we all come from a variety of experiences and environments, and I think just the full range of what it is to be human, the ability to show that full range on screen is so important, because that reflection of ourselves just allows people to feel related to, and feel visible, and to also continue to lift the idea of what our culture looks like in the first place.
I just have to roll this back and point out for everybody. Did y'all see how elated and joyful she was when she said her Grosse Point character was messy? I feel like
Yes.
my heart is so full just to see how much joy this role is bringing you. And that wasn't always the case, that Black actors could play such layered characters, could really absorb the problematic protagonist or the antagonist with redeeming qualities. There wasn't that many layers to the onion. So can you talk about what a different experience it is for Black actors to now get a chance to stretch into areas that they couldn't, and how do you balance that with the need to represent us well? Because there was a time in not so recent history where Black folks didn't want to see somebody playing the bad guy or the bad gal unless they were like really well dressed, like Dominique Devereaux, Diane Carroll's character, something like that. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
unless it's like unless it was that, Black folks needed you to be like an unproblematic doctor. They needed you to be like, because nobody want to you know uh, embarrass the family, or embarrass Black folks.
Yes.
But now, but there's no freedom. There's no
Yes.
creative freedom in that. The creative freedom is in the joy that you showed us. Talk about that.
Yes, yes. The creative freedom is being able to be a full human being. And I completely understand, coming from the history in this industry that we are, emerging out of. I think back to, yeah, fighting the stereotype. There was such a huge desire to fight the stereotype that was being thrown on to Black people of being like thugs and baby mamas and just diminishing our worth as human beings who might have been like struggling against something or trying to survive, like not giving that the life and breath that it deserved, because even in those depictions of us, it was always one note. Like there was no nuance. It wasn't human. Like it wasn't a real person, so it was dissatisfying because it wasn't real. And so then, yes, there was this huge push where you had to be like the model, model minority. And just, I mean, those words, it's like it feels icky to even say it because it's again washing away our humanity. It's one dimensional again, just being the sage Black person in the room with all the good advice of how to live and being some messy white person's best friend so that they could have a character arc and a trajectory. So yes, I do. I relish and revel in playing this character. And I mean, oh, the scenes I have done as Catherine, we dive into her family, we dive into her marriage, and it's not perfect. None of it is perfect. And yet she has so much, which I think makes her really relatable. And she has so much to lose, which is what makes her human and makes us feel for her because you see her unraveling, but you also see her fighting for herself and fighting for her marriage and fighting for her family and learning how to better communicate her own needs. Because there's a lot that she has to maintain in this society and the pressure of that. She's breaking under the pressure of that. And so it's kind of fun to play this game of like towing the line of how she should behave in certain spaces and when she does need to push up against other people that might be trying to challenge her. And I love how she continues to assert herself in places, but then she also has to, kind of be put in her place by her husband because of the way she betrays him. And but they go on that journey, and that's what I love about this show. It's not like, oh, she did this thing to her marriage and it's a big secret and she gets away with it. Like things are going to be revealed. She's going to have to come to terms with her actions, and it's really exciting that we kind of dive into that mess and you get to see her in this community and with her friends and all the stuff she becomes willing to reveal and the way she works through it to be better. And I love that because like we're all evolving. We're all walking contradictions. Like that to me is what it is to be a grounded human being. You say one thing one day, but then when you're actually in the moment with whatever it is happening, who knows how you'll actually react. And that's what I get to play with Catherine, just all of that mess that wasn't allowed before. And in a way, it does to me say like how we have progressed as a society and being able to represent that on screen, on network television for me is so huge, because I've been really looking at the landscape because when murder went off, when scandal went
Mhm.
off and murder went off, I was really sad because I was like, but wait, where's going to be the network TV show starring a Black woman? And I'm so happy that we have Found with Shanola and we have The Equalizer with Queen Latifah, because we need that. We need to continue to see that. But I look at these other awards shows sometimes and yeah, the bulk of the nominees still only look like one thing, and that one thing is not this. and and so I still feel like, we have such a ways to go in terms of not just the work in of itself, but also being recognized for the work that we are doing, because we are out here doing great work. And I'm really proud of us for it. And I know myself and other actors like myself are pushing for it, to have the great writing, to have these great stories, to create these great characters that people can see themselves reflected in, that they can invest in. And yeah, it's just, yeah, it's like acting is supposed to be about play, and I want to play, but I also want people to feel seen.
Well, that's one of the reasons why it's such a joy to work with the NAACP Image Awards, because when people were not being seen at all, Image Awards changed all of that. When people are not being seen enough, Image Awards is here, and it's a place a lot of us feel like home. I want to explore a couple of the things that you were mentioning earlier. You mentioned Queen Latifah and some of the other sisters that we've seen on screen. It sounds like you may have been inspired by some faces that look like yours when you were growing up. Were there some folks that you still keep with you in your heart that inspire your sense of purpose and what drives you as an actress? Who are some of your heroes, sheroes?
Yes, well, most definitely Angela Bassett for starters. I mean, come on, like, talk about a phenomenal artist, someone who's still at the top of her game, still excelling in every avenue. Um, Angela, Gabrielle Union, who I love, continue to love. She's so wonderful. And both of these women, not only are they great actors, they're great human beings. They're wonderful people who want to give advice and inspire others, and they lift you up. And that is the thing that we do as a community. We lift each other up. I was talking to my castmates about this. We were talking about starting out and being in audition rooms. And I remember being in these spaces with other young Black women going after these parts. And when I would walk into those rooms, when I tell you, we were always so excited to see each other. It
Mm.
didn't feel like competition. Yeah. It felt like everyone was like, if it's not going to be me, I want it to be you, because I want one of us in here. Like it's like we all had our eyes on the greater prize, in terms of the more of us that get these kinds of parts, then the more opportunities will grow from that. So I
Well,
always think
Asia,
of that, because yeah.
pardon me for pardon me for interrupting you. I just want to point out that sounds like sisterhood to me, and some people may be shocked to find that there is a sisterhood in Hollywood. Can you talk with me more about some of those
Oh, I'm like,
relationships? And it's just you giving all these ladies their flowers, and them obviously giving you
yeah,
yours. Let's talk about that sisterhood some more, because that
yes.
I think that will surprise some people and lift them up.
I mean, yeah, that it is such a deep sisterhood. Like, I mean, I remember going into rooms and Tika Sumter would be in there, and I would be like, I can't believe I'm in a room with Tika. And she would be looking at me like, "Oh girl, you look good." And there would be, it was like, not only this like respect and love and encouragement, there was this care. Like, we were always looking out for each other in these spaces. If something threw someone a curveball when they walked in, I'm telling you, they would come out and they would let the other women know. They'd be like, hey, they're going to ask about this, so just so you know, and you can be prepared. Yes, it was that kind of support and love. I mean, it was beautiful. And I never walked into a space with other black women and felt like, oh, there can only be one, Like, it was always this genuine joy to see each other, almost too much joy, because then we'd be like kikiing and chatting it up, and it's like, oh, hold on,
No
girl,
such thing
I
as too
gotta
much
I gotta
joy.
still go.
Absolutely no such
I'd be
thing.
But in terms of like, oh, let me actually, I gotta go do this sad scene now, but I'm so happy that I got to see you, it was like that, I have been in rooms where I would see a friend and didn't know she was gonna be there, and I'd do my thing, and I'd be like, okay, you focus, you go do your thing. I'm gonna wait for you to come out. We gonna go get lunch, like, and hang out with each other and have that time because we needed each other, like especially when I was first starting out. There wasn't a tremendous amount of opportunity in terms of the kinds of parts I was able to go in for, and so I felt like we needed each other to propel one another. And also, speaking of sisterhood, I know I've told this story a couple times on in other places, but this is still a really big moment in my life. When I got into Yale, my mom happened to know someone that was friends with Angela Bassett, and gave her my phone number, and she called me. She called my cell phone at the time and left me a message saying, "Hi, this is Angela. I'm going to give you a call back." Because she was calling from a private number, and I didn't answer private numbers. Like, thank God, thank God she like left a message, and she called me back and spent probably half an hour to an hour on the phone with me, just giving me advice about going to school and about being an actor, being an artist, and being open to everything and open to learning and trying things to their full extent. And I will never forget that. I will never forget that she took the time to do that because it was so encouraging. But it was also, there was something about it that just made me feel like I mattered, like she thought I mattered and thought I was worthy. And, to be in love with this person for their phenomenal work, and for them to call and like talk to me, like it was a really beautiful moment in my life. And getting to like still see her thrive in this industry is so inspiring and makes me feel like there is a path for me, and there's a path for the women that are coming after me to have a long career, because that's what we want a long career full of a variety of different parts to play, to create. And yeah, yeah, sisterhood, truly.
So, did Angela happen to give you any advice about staying true to yourself once the spotlight gets super bright? She seems to be a person that is exceptionally grounded. It's as phenomenal as she is, she's as grounded as she is phenomenal. When I see her with her family, she looks like a content, loved, and loving person. What did she share with you about being true to yourself and finding your personal anchor away from your work?
I mean, the main thing she shared with me, like in terms of like being true to yourself, was more so in the realm of giving yourself the opportunity to explore. Because I was going into a school environment, and it can be daunting. It can be terrifying, and you're around other actors, and it's a very special program, and I was so excited to be a part of it, but I was also scared. And she was like, this is a place to learn and to grow and to evolve and to really invest and trust in yourself, but to also trust in the teachers and go on that exploration and let go of whatever doesn't work, whatever doesn't, feed you, and go further than you even think you can go in terms of like how you work on a character or dive into this work. Like, really push yourself to explore it to its fullest depth. Which I think is such a wonderful thing, because I think, sometimes as actors, if something's coming easily, we might not really push ourselves to see what else could be there in the character. And so it's great to take it into different directions, and play it in different ways to find the gems in it. I mean, she really just talked to me about artistry, and that felt good to be able to have a conversation on that level with that kind of artist. Like, because if you look at her work and what she does, the way she does it, it is so good. It is so good, but there's also always a bit of surprise, like where you feel like she might have even surprised herself in that moment.
I can certainly see that. I can probably think of 100 times when that woman has just oozed humanity in ways that were, uh, and that I'll keep with me for the rest of my life as a fan. Let's talk about, since we're talking about great performances, are there any um, are there any series, films, or what have you, performances that you can think of that represented Black female friendship in a way that you thought was really fantastic? You know, I mean, you could talk about some of your own experiences for all the things that you have been a part of. I'm just curious, what makes our creatives tick? And we were, let's talk some more about those heroes and sheroes if you have some moments that you'd like to share.
Yes, yes. I mean, well, of course, growing up, I loved watching In Living Single and Girlfriends, and that those were great spaces to see us as Black women in conversation with one another, thriving where it was about ourselves and how we take care of ourselves, as well as our relationships and our work and our passions. And those shows were so beautiful. But then I felt like there was such a decline after they went off the air. And I was like, what happened to this like golden era of TV where we got to see such an array of like Black families and Black life? Um, and I mean, and now it's moved into to other arenas, where we have like streaming and stuff. And I feel like they've done a really great job. Like, oh, what was it? I love the show with Grace Byers and Making Good. Harlem. I loved
Harlem.
Harlem. Harlem was just so, so beautiful. That show's so good. And I'm so sad that it's ending because that show, like we need that, like Stars had was it Run the World? That show where it was again like a group of young Black women, just watching their career high and lows and love life high and lows, and you just got to see them being normal, and it wasn't about their Blackness, but not that that's a bad thing either, because that is something we take with us in every space that we go, and it should be infused into the stories we tell without it being the story itself, you know? Um, I'm trying to think of other shows. I will say I love on Will Trent the relationship of the two Black detective women on that show, and especially the sorry, I can't remember their names, but they did these beautiful flashbacks of them, which I really appreciated. I found that really just so like real, and they really dove into a lot of intense storytelling with the way they did it, which was really powerful. Trying to think, what else have I seen? Um, it has, I hope I'm not missing a big one. I mean, we all loved, we all loved Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder, and I loved the relationship Viola and I had on that show. I also, God, loved, the with Cicely Tyson and Viola Davis on that show, like that mother-daughter relationship, which was so powerful. And I was so grateful that they did that. And I was even more grateful when they had a crossover and I got to be in a room with Kerry Washington, Viola Davis, Cicely Tyson, like, and me. And I'm just like, this is a historic moment. All of these powerful, wonderfully talented Black women in this room, in this space. And I'm greedy for more of that, you know? I want more. And I'm really excited for who we are bringing on in my show to play my mother, that I know I'm not allowed to say anything about her yet, but I can't wait because when people
No,
see this, I know, like, I know, right?
I was like, oh, not even a
I'm
clue.
like, oh, I want, like, trust me, I want to tell you so badly because I can't, I want to shout it from the rooftops because it is so good. Just you wait. Oh,
Okay.
yes.
And while we're having this conversation, let's please tell everybody where they can catch Gross Point.
Yes, you can catch Grosse Pointe Garden Society on NBC and on Peacock because I know a lot of people don't watch TV when it's on TV. Instead, they watch it online so they can watch it at their leisure, which is totally fine. So you can always watch us on Peacock. We air Sundays at 10, and then we are available the next day on Peacock. And this show is so good. I mean, like, there's the murder mystery stuff, which is really fun, and it's fun to guess who the dead body is and how it all happened. But when I tell you how they dive into my story and my family and my life, like, for me as an actor, what this has done for me has just been exquisite. It is
I have
exquisite,
to,
and I'm so excited.
I love that, exquisite. I have to ask you, in the midst of all this joy, there are so many actors that will talk about having really tough experiences at work, not feeling seen, or the makeup or the hair doesn't suit people, the range of people, heritages
Mhm.
and backgrounds and things like that. It sounds like you have an environment that is truly uh, allowing you to be your full professional self, and for your personal self to be fully inspired. Can you talk about times when you have felt really safe as a Black actor on set and what that
Yes.
feels like?
Yes. So let me first tell you where I started, because when I first started out going onto these sets, I would walk into these hair and makeup spaces and they would look at me and be like, "Oh, you're so beautiful. You don't need any makeup." Now I'd be like, "Excuse me." Like, there are lights, there are cameras, that distorts everything. Yes, we need some makeup over here. And those experiences taught me to bring my makeup with me in order to make sure I was going to look the way I was hoping to look on camera. Cut to being on a set where number one is a Black woman and a dark-skinned Black woman like myself. And walking into that space because of Viola, I felt so utterly cared for. I felt pampered. I felt so beautiful because whatever they were doing for her, they were going to do for me. and and she wasn't going to put up with having anything less than what she truly deserved, and she deserved the best. And that is what she got. And because of that, the lighting would be catered to our skin. and and that meant a lot. And coming into this space now, what is unique about this show that I'm working on right now, which I really value about this show, is when they wanted us to be this ensemble, they wanted it to truly be an ensemble. And so they made all four of us number one on the call sheet. And that is a huge, like, right? Thank you.
That gets an applause, a hallelujah, and a whatever other
Yes.
joyful celebration we could put on that.
Like,
Man,
amen. Amen. Amen.
all of
Yes.
that.
all of that. And so walking into a space where I'm like, oh, yes, I am number one. That means I get to have my needs met. And I am going to speak what I need because I have learned that my voice matters and I deserve to feel as comfortable and as beautiful as everyone else working here. And I have just been surrounded by phenomenal artists that make me feel good and look good. And I am lit beautifully and I am dressed well. And it's just, it is, it is an experience that I do not take for granted because I know where I started. So to get here where I am not bringing any makeup to set with me because I know I'm going to be taken care of. Like it feels so good.
That is a huge deal. That is something that not only actors will be able to relate to, but others as well in professional settings where they finally feel seen. So thank you for
Yes.
being so generous with your memories and your moments because I feel like you told that story and made me feel like I was there in the makeup room with you. I could just imagine
Yes.
how that felt walking
Right.
in and the artists look like you. And
Yes, exactly.
or or even on a diverse team when you see a woman who may look like you who is being treated well by her colleagues, therefore you know those colleagues are also going to be able to see you and work with you in a different way than environments
Yes.
where you weren't so seen. So thank you, Asia. You described what it may feel like to speak your needs. Do you have
Hmm.
advice for emerging actors and creatives who have not learned that it's okay to speak their needs or haven't found their voice in which they feel they that they'll be heard or that they know the proper tone? It sounds like you had a master
Hmm.
class in doing so from Viola and potentially Cicely. How does that what do you have to pay forward from what you've learned so far?
Yes, I would say, I have been so lucky to be on these sets and watch how these actors operate. And it is always in a spirit of collaboration first and foremost. And collaboration, that is now we're talking about creativity and artistry. Like we should all be on the same team when it comes to doing what's best for the character and for the project. So when you come up in those moments where something's happening but it doesn't feel right, like my advice is I always feel like it never hurts to ask the question. And when posed as a question, I feel like people are way more open to considering it. Like, would my character really say something like this given this evidence, And then honestly, there are also moments where I've had to just outright reject something, and just be like, this is not honest. This is not true. And I can't do this because it's not supported. So we have to find another way. But it's always done with respect and kindness and conversation and an openness to collaborate to make our way into something good, because at the end of the day, I feel like as actors we walk into these spaces and we don't feel like we have ownership over what's happening, but we do. What we say and how we do it, we have ownership over that, and you have to step into that and believe in that, because your voice does matter, and you have to have artistic integrity when you are doing these parts and diving into these roles, and you have to honor yourself. about it. And look, and sometimes you're going to get pushback or rejection. Um, and that is fine. Like maybe someone doesn't see it that way. Maybe you can find a way, some kind of middle ground nuance, but you have to bring to it what you believe it should be, and you have to believe in yourself enough to take ownership over what you are portraying, because at the end of the day, that's going to be your face doing it. And yeah, like that's you have to honor that.
A couple of really big takeaways for our community. You mentioned, Asia, when you post something as a question, you may have a better chance of it, of your point of view, your concern being heard. That's a really amazing gem. And I really appreciate how you said if you have to say that something is not working for you, you whereas you might feel inclined to say, hey, I'm uncomfortable, which actually personalizes things for you. You said, hey, I don't think I can do this because this is not true. This is not, it lands this way. And that, finding the why it might does, why it makes you uncomfortable, why it doesn't ring true for you, and communicating that perhaps along with the question, are a couple of ways that young artists, I mean, heck, and some old artists can learn to make sure that they are heard, and give them the comfort and courage they need to speak up, so they don't uh, leave experiences unaddressed that they just don't need to. So great tip, amazing advice. Deeply appreciate you. Are there some things the way that you were able to voice this, these tips and things like that are giving me the impression that, like, you could, if you just got tired of doing this acting thing, you might be a professional speaker, a teacher, a professor. Like, what if you weren't acting? What might you be doing?
You know, I've actually thought about this recently, and I thought maybe if I wasn't acting, I would be a therapist, because I am really curious about people, and I really do want to I want to help people be their best selves, be their truest selves. I we have this one life. We have this one life. This is it. And who we are as we are is already extraordinary. Like just because we are here. And I just so want I want people to suck all the sweetness they can out of life. Like no matter what is happening. And I feel like us as a culture, like that is what we do. We create joy wherever we go. And like that is just a really beautiful thing about us. And I love that. And I want everyone to be able to do that, to be able to find a way to always create joy for themselves, because this is it and you deserve your joy.
So if no one's ever told you and you don't know, you are joy, Asia. You absolutely are joy. Period. I've gotten my whole life sitting here talking with you, uh, going down these, recent memory lanes, and the all the things that you appreciate about how different your experience is in 2025 than maybe some actresses 5, 10, 15, and of course 40 or 50 years ago. So you don't even embody joy, you just are joy. I
Thank you.
really, no, absolutely. So since there's a part of Asia that might, might have loved to have been a therapist, let's go ahead and play mini therapist now. Let's talk about self-care and
Okay.
getting rest, all the important things that we have to do as people, let alone women. to
Hmm.
manage our personal lives and our professional lives as an actor when you get on a film or, I mean, even some series. It's such a consuming life that many people's relationships, marriages, family lives fall by the wayside. How are
Hmm.
you? What is the best advice that you've gotten, or what is something that's working for you in maintaining balance? And how do you? Um, what would you share about that?
Yes, you owe it to yourself and your artistry to take care of all of this in here and this here and your body. And for me, like a lot of it comes down to meditating, and I go use the sauna, which I really love and I find peaceful, and carving out those moments for yourself, which I know is hard, especially when you're working, and I'm a parent, so it's like I want to make sure I'm spending time with my child, with my husband, and there are just so many times when you can feel like you're being pulled every which way. And so it's been really important to me to be very organized. I have to have a full understanding of what my day is supposed to look like, and then figure out the points in that day where, okay, here I can do a 10-minute meditation, or here I'll be able to get up a little earlier and work out so that I can feel good in my body. Or like right after work, like I'm going to make sure I get to go straight home and play with my child, because it is simultaneously draining and energizing to be with your kid, but it's what your heart needs. And then putting him to bed and just like engaging in a conversation with my husband that is not about work and not about our child, but about ourselves and how we're feeling and what our desires are for our life together. And having carving out those moments, being organized, allows me to feel like I am doing my best to prioritize my needs and manage what I can to take care of myself enough to be able to do these long, long days, but also have the family life and the creative life and emotional life and that I want and desire for myself, and also take care of myself physically so that I can feel good in my body wherever I go, and take care of myself mentally, because like if it's chaos in here, then you can't achieve anything outside. Like we need balance in our mind. And I'm so proud of myself because I mean it's always a work in progress, but I'm feeling really good about it right now. But I've let go of the illusion of control for the most part. So if things swing far in a direction that I wasn't anticipating, I am much better at like, all right, well, that's just the way we're gonna have to go now and make the best of it. And I've always been like a glass half full kind of person. I am very like, well, how do we make the best with what we got? How do we enjoy these moments? Because I don't ever want to be in a position where I'm saying, well, once I get through this, then I can be happy. Or once I complete that, then things will be good for me. It's like, no, I'm living my life right now. I want to be happy right now. I want to be satisfied right now. I want to take care of myself right now, regardless of what might be happening, what I need to manage. I always make sure to prioritize my needs in that way so that I can fully show up in my work and for my family, because I need to last for my child, for myself. I need to take care of myself in a way that will allow me to live this life the way I want to live it, and have the kind of longevity that I choose to have, that I will have for myself, because I am making the necessary choices now so that in 10 years, in 20 years, I will feel strong and I will feel healthy. And yeah, you have to This is going to sound so dark, and I'm sorry, but you have to think about you have to think about how do you want to die? What, like, when you die, what state do you want your body to be in? Like, I want to be the kind of old person who can still travel and can carry a suitcase across cobbly steps or something. I am taking care of myself now so that in the future I can still feel strong. And I'm sorry for how dark that is, but
No,
it's
there's
yeah.
nothing dark. There's nothing dark about legacy, though, because sure, it might have been darkly funny the way that you put it, but having a vision for your own legacy is the ultimate dream. How do you want to enjoy whatever days of your life you have? There's nothing dark about that. It's actually the opposite. It's quite illuminating because a lot of people don't think about what that road looks like. So darkly funny. Yes, you apparently have a morbidly funny side. I'm sure that will be useful with Catherine on Grosse Point. Uh,
Yes.
but look, legacy is a real thing. And part of that legacy is how do you want to live when you are older? And
Yeah.
you know, we can't always,
Yeah, they're going to be things that we can't control for sure. Like
yeah,
something can happen, that's entirely possible, but what we can do is we can strengthen ourselves for whatever may come. And and yeah, and that is my intention.
just a couple of questions before we wrap up here. You talked about we talked a lot about some really great self care points, and uh, I wanted to ask d- does this fly in the face of the stereotype of angry black women or the strong black woman? Because what I really loved about your intentional need to find time for meditation, find time for your family, it looks like you are either redefining or totally dismantling the stereotype of the strong black woman. And how are you redefining or blowing it to bits?
Yeah. Yeah, redefining for sure because angry black woman and strong black woman, it's one dimensional. It's not nuanced. Like strong, like people aren't always strong, people aren't always angry. It washes away all of what we are. And for me, like, you know it's like when a black woman is angry, it's not for no reason. you know and when a black woman has to be strong, it's not for no reason. And but we are more than what we are reacting to. We are also soft, and we deserve to be soft with ourselves. And in that softness and care, yes, exists anger about the things that we have to fight about, and we have strength for the people that we want to take care of. But we also have to demand a softness towards ourselves and rest. We deserve so much rest.
Thank you so much for your time today, Asia. Is there anything that you would like folks to take away from this conversation that I haven't already asked you?
I mean, this conversation has been phenomenal. This has been such a great time speaking with you. I really appreciate getting to dive into all these different topics. Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to sum up, but it's like, oh, what we are as a community is utterly glorious, and I am just so grateful that we get to be in community with one another. And I am in every space I walk into, when it is filled with black people, I know I'm going to be loved on, and I cherish that.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Our Culture, Our Stories podcast are those of the individual hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of the NAACP or any affiliated organizations.